The fact that Takt Top Destiny was made to promote a gacha game was all you needed to know to not expect much. Some people are saying that I'm being biased and talking about this as solely being a gacha game. No, that's besides the point. You need to learn the history of gacha, how it's just a bunch of low effort content that is ultimately cash grabbed. The history of gacha is a history of how the gaming industry is just declining, and it's a poison that is spreading into anime. Everything that gacha touches turns into sludge. That's my point, and they missed it completely. The result is yet another series that is all animation and cute girls, but nothing else. Not only that, many times the animation looks hilariously ugly, and still frame PowerPoint presentations make an awful lot of appearances for something that's been getting praised so much for its animation. Here's an anime about music, even though there rarely is any. They could have at least tried using some lesser known works to be more unique. Even rarer than that is character development. This series is a prime example of how not to do character development. Takt is an annoyingly bitter piano player who is also stinky. I did develop a bit of a soft spot for him because of his struggle to write a good song, but mostly I felt bad because his character was overly poorly done. His character goes nowhere in the series from beginning to end. All that build up to write a song they only showed you 3 seconds of. It's like they ran out of budget or time to compose one more piece, and it was the most important one, in fact. Anna somehow became one of the most useless and irrelevant characters I have ever seen. They cheated by making her relevant out of nowhere at the last second. Near the end, they decided to have her do something that made no sense because there was no build-up to it whatsoever, and she still had no development other than being reduced to a piece of fan service. People are really defending Takt and Anna, saying that there was sexual tension, which is a terrible explanation. It was the writer's last-ditch effort to make Anna relevant. It's hilarious that the whole time the viewers thought Destiny would consume Takt, but it was really Anna who consumed Destiny for the sake of the plot in the end. Then there's Destiny. She is yet another boring and bland Violet Evergarden ripoff done wrong. After having no development for a large part of the series, they rushed through it towards the end, and her emotions flipped 180 degrees so fast it was executed terribly and felt awkward. After that, she goes back to her apathetic ways. Her personality is so deceased it became annoying. Cassette was a much more likable character that sadly got barely any screen time. If I was to try and justify it, maybe Emotional Destiny was so bizarre not a character because it was Cassette coming out. A split personality would have been better for this character. Destiny and Cassette were truly a tragedy. It felt like an insult to them for the writers to just toss them away when the romance between her and Takt was what actually had development and build-up. Of course, Anna had to come out of nowhere, and Cassette sadly became a ghost forever after episode 2. The plot itself is a boring road trip across the United States. They couldn't even make that fun and instead infested the series with irrelevant side quests. It felt episodic, and episodic anime feels mostly hit or miss most of the time, at least in my experience. Sakugan is another series suffering from this. The D2 represents something that annoys me about several series, the inclusion of nonsensically written villains that are too easy to beat, and thus there are no stakes or risks. They appear aimless and are there for the sake of animation and just being something for the protagonist to fight. They feel so hollow as they have no clear motivation, goals, or proper backstory. Monster writing and To Your Eternity and Wonder Egg Priority felt this way also. By the time they try to introduce bigger villains who are actually in control, they come off as hilariously badly written and bland. Hell was amusing at first, but with no development. Since not doing any is this series' specialty, her character got too hollow and eventually too annoying with her over-the-top personality. So I think his name was Sagan. He is the antagonist. I don't get his deal. He was entrapped in crystals, didn't seem to have any powers. He told Takt his entire master plan to justify him being evil, that he wanted to save the world. And Takt tells him, actually, you're just wrong. And Sagan makes this face, shocked that his foundation for his purpose in life has been shook and destroyed, and just gives up and refers to his struggle as a comedy. Well, this series is a comedy too. Was there anything good or acceptable? Titan and Lenny were, and they deserved better than what the slump of a coal of a series gave them. They're much better than Takt and Destiny as main characters, and should have been the main ones. I have little complaints about Lenny besides him rarely being there, and Titan at least had character, unlike that pale ghost with pretty colors. An amusing fact about Titan and Lenny's voice actors is that they worked together before, in the Akatope of White Sand as Kukuru and her boss. Now that I think about it, I've been enjoying Scarlet Nexus and Deep Insanity The Lost Child more than this. This is a series that almost offends me. The only thing it really excelled in is in being one of the biggest disappointments of the fall season. excuse me, considering how much many viewers were looking forward to it. It's a soulless disaster, hardly worth talking about. Speaking of this promoting a gacha game, have fun playing it. It got indefinitely delayed. Thank you for listening.